So I'm speaking to you today as the representative of the something like 0.1% of 3%. One of the small community who help to produce Chinese literature in English. When I was thinking about what I was going to say, when I came here, I thought of the image that the translator, the Chinese to English translator, has become enmeshed inevitably in the spider's web of the publishing world. But of course, we're deeply enmeshed in another kind of web too. It's the World Wide Web which has transformed the Chinese to English translation world and made it possible for people like me to work in the UK. At the most basic level, the web provides all sorts of language resources, and not just online dictionaries, but linguistic corpora, documents, anything you really want for the actual translation work. More importantly for today, I'd say, it provides access to authors in China, their works, what they write about, blogs, discussions, and so on, which makes it possible for me not just to go to China and find authors, which I do, but also it gives me access to the virtual side of China. So, having found my favourite author, my favourite work, how do I go about getting a commission from a US or a UK publisher to translate it so that they'll publish it? Well, it ain't that easy. There are countless translation courses and summer schools in the UK that I know about, which will talk endlessly about how to make the perfect pitch to a publisher. Exactly what you need to write, what kind of synopsis, how much of a sample translation, how to prepare yourself, how to find who to write to, and so on and so forth. In my experience for Chinese to English, it very rarely comes up with the goods. That is, it very rarely provides people like me with a commission to translate a book, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. So that sounds pretty negative. Publishers, of course, will tell you that they absolutely love the system because it provides them, gets other people to do the legwork, and we run around rather like plumbers or electricians producing quotes for them. And the end result is often that we translators are disappointed, but they're also disappointed because they don't get what they think they're going to get. One of the problems is that because they're not able to read the source materials themselves, they are not really clear about what Chinese writers are writing and how. Again, both fiction and non-fiction. And I think one of the solutions is that publishers need to know a lot more about the publishing world in China, the writing world. This particularly, I think, applies to genre fiction, detective fiction, romantic fiction, and so on, which of course exists in abundance in China. But genre fiction, as we're all aware, readers have very specific expectations when they go to a detective novel that's either written in English or been translated into English. And Chinese detective novels are quite a different kettle of fish. It's not mixing too many metaphors. Also, of course, the problem is that if a publisher in the UK is only going to produce one book per year, translated from Chinese, or even one every 2 years, it's got to be a very special book in their view. They've got to be very sure that readers are going to read it. And I was talking to Lisa over coffee before we started today, and we both agreed that this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If publishers in the UK think that someone is not going to read that book, then readers will never get the opportunity to make up their mind whether they want to read it or not. Also, of course, translators are not are not perfect. We need to learn an awful lot more about the publishing world and what kind of things publishers are looking for. I speak from bitter personal experience. I do know a little bit more now than I used to. So that's enough of the negative. I want to talk a bit about some possible solutions. And the overall theme of the possible solutions is investment in communications. That's communications between translators and publishers, between publishers and Chinese publishers, between translators and Chinese authors, and so on. Western publishers need to ensure that they become better informed. Translators won't get very far if they act on their own. But here's when the investment comes in. Collectively, translators can do a lot and have already started to do a lot. Paper Republic, a website that some of you have come across, is an online community of translators from Chinese, which has developed over the last 3-4 years. It was set up by Eric Abrahamson, who's an American translator based in Beijing, and it was a small online community, a kind of, at the beginning it was basically a blog. Eric had big ideas, and I got in touch with him, and to cut a long story short, we got funding. The funding, it may surprise you to know, came from the Arts Council England. Why? Well, the reasons are complex, but we had a champion woman called Kate Griffin who could see the possibilities and the potential of a website like that, which helped to produce books in English from Chinese. And so we got a year's funding. Paper Republic developed. It became much more than a blog. It became a place for translators to put their profiles, for translators to put sample translations of their favourite books, for publishers to read about translators when they wanted to find a translator, everyone to bang on about their favourite topic. We still get quite serious and interesting articles written by fellow translators about irony in Chinese, or lack of, how you translate swear words, and so on and so forth. When I walked in here yesterday, some kind person said that they looked at the website and how accessible and easy it was. I recommend it. I'm going to stick these on the front after. Take a flyer and have a look at it. But of course, Paper Republic has developed a lot since those days. Although we haven't been able to list many translations which came as a direct result of authors being profiled on Paper Republic by translators, we've had many other successes in informing publishers. One of the things which I said at the beginning was really important, informing publishers about what's out there, allowing translators to showcase their talents. I've had a very important commission which came to me through someone reading my profile on Paper Republic, and it's also been a very good way of mentoring new translators, which is something that I feel particularly strongly about. So of course, there still is a role for individual translators to work individually outside and through Paper Republic. As a small example, I've set up a London-based group which is called the China Fiction Book Club, and is actually a group of people who like to read fiction in Chinese, who are not currently working as translators, but we get together every couple of months and practice translating bits from a short story and discuss translation. Anyway, it's an offline community with an online outlet, because we've publicised our activities through Paper Republic, and one woman in particular found, I'm very pleased about this, found a new author, actually a Tibetan author writing in Chinese, through some of the books which I had circulated in the book club, decided that she liked his short stories. translated a sample, put it up on Paper Republic under her own profile, and was then asked by the editor of an anthology of Chinese short stories to do the whole short story for money. So happiness all round. But Paper Republic has developed again since then with a further kind of funding. And funding is really important for work like this. Of course, we put in many, many hours of unpaid work. But Eric and another man called Bruce Humes, both based in China, have just launched an industry newsletter available. You have to subscribe on Paper Republic, but it's free at the moment. And this industry newsletter is specifically aimed at publishers. I sent the link around, but I've also brought along a few hard copies, which I'll stick on the front there and people can take away. So this is really, I think, the way forward for Paper Republic, much more specifically publisher focused. It's not just, oh yes, I forgot to say who that was funded by, the Beijing Book Fair, rather surprisingly. So here you have two totally disparate forms of funding, the Arts Council England and the Beijing Book Fair. Another thing that Paper Republic is doing, those based in Beijing, is organising a visit of Western publishers to Beijing to meet writers. This is going to happen, the first one, organised by Paper Republic, next week. This is not the first such visit. Toby Eady, who's a British agent, and Shinran, who's a Chinese writer living in the UK, have organised various before, and I think probably they're on their fourth this year, maybe the fourth or the fifth that they're organising. But there's always room for more. Each group is only going to be about 20 publishers and agents. And I believe that the Paper Republic one is fully subscribed, and I hope to read more about it on Paper Republic after they've been and gone. Yeah, I think that's really all I want to say. I wanted to say more about the role of the web in Chinese writing, which is extremely important, but possibly it may come up after. Or you can approach me personally, because it's my little thing I'm most keen on. So I think my summary is that individual translators have a role to play. Collectively, they have an even bigger role to play. Funding, however many hours we put in free, funding is even more important. And finally, Paper Republic is a very sexy website.
There's room for one brief question. Yes, please.